going to be recording this, and we'll be putting it on the Mariposa County website so we can drive people towards this presentation today if they have any questions regarding restaurants and bars and the tiers and the changes. So what we'll do today is we'll cover three different things. The first, Dr. Surjanko will cover the tiering, the scoring, as far as how that we move from tier to tier. Kim Keith will deliver the changes to the sectors. I think the largest being in the bar sector, bars and wineries. And then at the end, I will talk about relief and recovery efforts from the county to give an update on where we're at on that. I know I've talked to some of the restaurant owners about that, but I'll give more of an update this morning, followed by more of an update shortly in a few weeks. So with that, I will turn it over to Dr. Surjanko. And you're on mute. Eric, you're on mute. There.
That's going to be the phrase of 2020. You're on mute. And I appreciate everyone joining us on short notice. And we wanted to do this because we have moved into a yellow tier, and I'll just talk a little bit about what that means. But Kim will go into more detail on what that specifically means for the restaurant and bar sector. And so back in June, we transitioned from the stay-at-home order to the county data monitoring list, and that was very binary. Either you were on it or you were off it, but the restrictions that applied to every sector was largely the same regardless of whether you were in a county data monitoring county or not. And so on the 28th of August, the state health officer, in conjunction with the governor, implemented this blueprint for a safer economy. And it drives a tiered mechanism that goes from the most strictest restrictions or implementation of what are called non-pharmaceutical interventions. That's the purple level. And then it steps down based upon number of cases and the test positivity through red to orange to yellow. And so the purple level basically equates to the same restrictions that are currently applied to those counties that are in the county data monitoring list, where a number of their business sectors are either severely restricted or are actually closed. The red level is less restrictive. Orange, which we were in from the start on the 28th of August till Tuesday, pretty much actually most sectors are open. Some specific things that aren't open in either the orange or the yellow sectors are things like concerts or other venues that create a large gathering. And that has to do with the ability to do contact tracing and mitigate the impacts should an outbreak occur in that sort of setting. So in both the yellow and the orange, there are still things that are not allowed because of the inability or extreme difficulty in controlling a disease outbreak should one occur in that setting. So that's the idea behind those. And then the other thing I'll talk about briefly before I hand it over to Kim is, again, sort of the metrics that are used to drive this is, one is the test positivity rate, and that is the percent of tests that are obtained that are positive. And we've been running around the 1.5 all the way down to 0.8% level. So we've been consistently in the yellow tier for test positivity. And actually, if I can share my screen, I don't know who's got control, I will put up a chart that shows this. Maybe easier to graphically demonstrate it than. All right, Kim, are you moving that, or is that somebody? If we can't get it, that's fine. I'll just keep talking. Oh, there we go. Yay. Yeah, I'm gonna make this a little bit bigger if I can. Let's see. Okay. You can go to 150. Yeah. So again, the test positivity is that percentage of tests that are positive, and we have been consistently in the yellow zone for that, running in that range of 0.8 up to 1.6%. So that's been good for us, but then you can see the breakdown is to stay in the orange tier, we would have to keep it less than 5%. Red tier would be 5 to 8%, and then greater than 8% would push us into the purple tier. So this actually goes to speaking to why we should continue to do testing and do lots of testing, especially amongst hospitality workers, is because if we have a lot of negatives, that drives this number down. And it also, from a public health standpoint, lets us know that we don't have a lot of disease transmission occurring in Mariposa. So it's important, even though we're in the yellow tier, to keep testing and keep testing your workers, asking them to get tested. And again, testing is free for everybody at the OptumServe site, and the OptumServe site is going to be staying at the senior center for the foreseeable future, with the schools opening in October. So that's one element, is the test positivity. And then the other is the 7-day average number of cases. And this is a little bit more complex. So we just broke it down to what it looks like on a weekly basis on this chart. And honestly, this is what I look at rather than try and figure out all these numbers over here. This makes it simpler for me. And then we can look at our data. So if we maintain a rate of 1 case or less per week, that keeps us in the yellow. The range of 2 to 4 cases pushes us back into the orange. If we get above that, 5 to 8 range pushes us into tier 2, and then above that pushes us into tier 1. Now, that said, the mechanics of it is we basically have a 3-week lag from the time that we start seeing a change in data till we start moving a tier, and we only move 1 tier at a time. So even starting this last Tuesday, if we started seeing cases, we would not transition to orange tier until we're into the middle of October. And then if we continue to see an increase in cases with the layering on of the restrictions involved with the orange tier, we wouldn't be moving into the red tier again for another 3 weeks after that. And the idea behind that was, one, was kind of see if we could do adjustments at the local level prior to implementing a whole nother layer of restrictions. And then the other thing was recognizing that the problem with a lot of the stuff that was coming from the state, it was like we get told on a Friday with implementation on a Monday, and that was leading to things like food wastage, problems with employee staffing, et cetera. And the state recognized that as an issue and kind of gave us the ability to maneuver a little bit more, give us a little more lead time. So I'm thankful for that. And I think it actually gives us the ability to, A, have more local control, and B, give you more warning if something needs to happen. So that's kind of the highlights on the tiering. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and then we can transition to Kim.
Hey, Dr. Eric, there's one question from Jonathan. It's in the chat box. It says, what are the current limits on gatherings or meetings, indoors or outdoors, assuming proper social distancing is followed? Will these numbers change by tier if cases increase?
So the answer for that is there really isn't a current guidance on gatherings or meetings. We keep anticipating that from the state. And I'm going to go ahead, let's see. Going to take back this, but actually what we can do is, Kim, if you've got the link to the tier guidance, the business activity and business tier guidance, share that in the window. But I'm going to share I've got the actual. So this is something we'll share the hyperlink to in the chat box, but this at each level demonstrates what is allowed in each of those business sectors. So I think that's a handy reference. But in terms of meetings, what we really want to do in the yellow tier is still continue limiting meetings as much as possible. But if we're looking at things like movie theaters, I think the same thing kind of holds, is that we want to limit our meetings to about 50% of the rated capacity. but also recognizing that even within the restaurant and bar guidance that's out there, things like concerts and musical gatherings aren't permitted. So we're kind of weaving our way through what the state has for the different guidances, and then we're waiting for an actual guidance on gatherings that we've been told is going to be really soon now. But they're kind of working the gathering guidance along with some Halloween guidance. And so as soon as we get that, we'll push that out to everybody.
Thanks, Eric. Now we'll transition over to Kim to talk about the sector changes.
Hello, good morning, everybody, and thank you for attending on such short notice. So the sector changes for the restaurants, bars, and wineries are not much different. It affects just a few things. I'm going to share my screen as well. Okay. So here in the yellow tier, bars, the biggest changes to bars. Bars can open indoors with modification with a 50% capacity without providing meals. So many of the restaurants and bars have adapted to comply with the meal offering. So that's one of the big differences. The modifications still need to be in place though. So you still need to practice the social distancing, the FRI screenings, and making sure that people are not within 6 feet of your drink or your food prep spaces. Restaurants, most of this is the same. If you've already been open and operating indoors, you have 50% now. And then wineries also, this is pretty much the same with modifications to the capacity rate. It prior was 25%, and now you can open with a 50% capacity. Again, all of the mitigation and all of the current guidance modifications still need to be met. Most of the changes are pretty much the same. So if anybody has any questions in particular about what it means for their business, I'd like to leave a lot of the time open for people to ask questions. So if anyone has any questions about this.
All right, as people gather their thoughts, I'll go ahead and talk about some recovery efforts for the county. Just so you know, I've mentioned it before. We've started to get more infrastructure around that. So Tara Schiff, who's on today, had applied for a SAFE program grant for the county, and I think that one was $75,000. It's a CDBG type grant that there will be an application for. In addition, through the California Department of Public Health, we received a grant at Health and Human Services and have been able to set aside $200,000 for local businesses to apply for expenses based on mitigation strategies they put into their businesses. And then finally, on October 6th, hopefully that will be the date, since there's no Board of Supervisors meeting next week, we're going to go to the board to try and identify funding from the CARES Act that we can use to assist businesses with their losses. So the way the process will work, and several other counties have done this, so we are taking different counties' applications and putting them together for Mariposa. As a business or a restaurant or any business in Mariposa, you would enter your normal information that you put on a W-9. You would assign whether or not you had expenses for COVID or losses due to COVID, and then you would list those out. And all of the applications will then be forwarded to a committee made up of members from both the business, and governmental agencies. We're working on identifying that right now. And so it's a non-biased assigning of funding to pay for losses, or assigning of funding to pay for expenses based on COVID. All this will go to the board on the 6th is the hope. I'll let you know. We'll know more by 1 o'clock today, but we'll go to the board on the 6th to ask for guidance from the board. If the board gives us the go ahead to move forward, you'll see movement rapidly to create an infrastructure where we can start dispersing funds back into the community for businesses that used expenses for COVID or had losses due to COVID, to start helping the community move forward. Currently, our original ask of the board from the CARES funding will be $400,000. So I think the total that we're looking at right now is about $675,000. And that's dependent on the board on the 6th, whether they ask for more or less. I don't know. That's a starting point, but I don't have a lot of other answers. So if you have questions, I think we all do, because we're still waiting to make sure we have the guidance to move forward. I do know, regardless of the board's outcome on the 6th, the CDPH funding of $200,000 for expenses based on COVID, that's mitigation expenses, is available. And that is not something that we need to seek. It's already here. And the $75,000 from the SAFE program for Tara is here as well. So more to come on that. I just wanted to give you an update, since I have talked to some of you, or you've asked, or we've had conversations over time. And actually, Tara's on it. Tara just turned on her camera, so I'm going to go ahead and give it over to Tara. I think she has something to say.
Thank you, Joe. I was hoping you would, and I was wondering if you mind if I mention the LAC that we're planning. We're planning a local assistance center targeted toward businesses and unemployed workers. Right now, our dates are October 5th through 6th in Mariposa, and then the 9th, Friday the 9th in Coulterville. We will be in the Mariposa room at HHSA. And the goal is to have some really hands-on information for the businesses. So we'll have the applications for the SAVE program. I'm going to have SBDC there, EDD, Motherlode Job Training, SBA, GoBiz, the Governor's Office of Business Development is sending me tons of material for the local businesses. And then maybe, Joe, we can have a little more information, maybe not on the funding that you're talking about too. So be sure to join us. I know that it's the Joint Information Center through Public Health has done a fantastic job dispersing all the information through these past 7 months. But I know that you guys don't always get everything. So that's why we thought we would do a hands-on live Local Assistance Center. It's called Local Assistance Center. Acronym is LAC, L-A-C, on October 5th and 6th from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. at the HHSA in the Mariposa room. So I'll have marketing material on that probably by the end of the week. I'm getting a press release to the Gazette tomorrow. So any questions, let me know.
Thank you, Tara. I just received a question from Jonathan. He said $200,000 for mitigation. Could or would this include any business receipts for PPE or protective measures such as clear plastic, protective separations? Does this include tents, canopies, or equipment for restaurants to serve guests outside? And could this equipment be used or require? Could this include equipment used or required to increase their takeout food offerings? Yes on all except for the last one. So yes for PPE. Yes for protective measures. Yes for tents, canopies, or equipment to serve guests outside. No for increased business equipment to assist with takeout offerings. And the reason why I say that, Jonathan, is because all of the first things that you mentioned were all specifically mentioned as appropriate expenses. And the last one you mentioned was not. Or the last one you asked as far as the equipment to improve takeout offerings. It's not really a mitigation strategy. It's a saving the business strategy. I would think that maybe on the recovery side, that would be something where it was a business loss because they had to buy equipment. So the $200,000 is just mitigation for COVID. The other amount that we're seeking would be the recovery amount. That would probably fall more appropriately there. Sorry, I can't even talk this morning, but awesome. Thanks for the question. So we've heard from Dr. Eric, we've heard from Kim, myself. Douglas had the same question. Yeah, no worries. If you have any questions, you can call the COVID hotline, email us, email Jonathan, he'll email us. We're active all the time on email to answer anything that you might have. Like I said, we'll know more about the recovery side of COVID after the 6th of October. And other than that, thanks, Tara, for your input today. Any other questions? Oh, there's the email. Yes. I'm on vacation next week. You can email me. I can assure you I will not respond next week, but I will respond the day I get back. I have 6 kids that have been in school, and if they don't see me, they're going to kill me. So awesome. So there's all your numbers. Unless there's any other questions, I'd like to thank you all for being here today. I see someone unmuted. Is there a question? Oh, sure. Douglas Shaw, you're going to ask about the hotel meeting today. The hotel meeting is tomorrow, and but I will answer for you if I can look real quick because I have.
Yes. Joe, if you don't mind. Yeah, the spas at the hotels can open now.
Yes, they open with modification, and the fitness centers at hotels can be at 50%. That's the spreadsheet that Dr. Eric showed with the chart is really fantastic. I think we put a link for it. It's really great information. Thank you, Mr. Shaw. Any other questions? Awesome. As all, I appreciate you coming on short notice, taking your time from today. We'll try and keep as much information coming as we can for the community, and y'all have a great day.